Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Entertainment. Centenary Chinese Medicine, exposed by Mushroom House. I long for the 7th season to arrive as promised. They arrived at the desert village in the northwest. Unexpectedly discovered that the neighbor is a 100-year-old national doctor. Villagers said. During the anti-Japanese war, he once treated the one-armed general He Bingyan. His most expensive medical fee was to bring the painting of the 5 bulls back to his homeland. He is also a pioneer in domestic medicine and has founded the strongest hospital in the country. During the War of Resistance against Japan, he saved tens of thousands of soldiers, and Bai Qiu En consulted him on medicine. Xiao Liu from Xiangjiang had his kidney replaced 3 times. 2 horses from the mainland willingly contribute their shares to help him treat his illness. There is also Gai Ci from abroad, who claims to be a lifesaver. His name is Ye Feng.Mushroom House has become unique this season because of him. At night, Zifeng's sister and Reba rush to wash his feet. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 0001. At the doorstep of a 100-year-old national medical school, Reba suddenly appears. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. The continuous peaks of the Chilean mountains are a clear reflection on the gray-blue sky. This region in the northwest is like a masterpiece from heaven. At this point, a group of 6 people in the Mushroom House are walking in this desert in the northwest. There are also many staff members around, with several carrying cameras. Sister Zifeng was waving her hand lovingly, greeting the audience on the other side of the camera. Hello everyone, welcome to the 7th season of A Longing Life. We will adopt a full broadcast mode this season. The location is in the desert of the northwest. In today's live broadcast room, the audience is also warmly responding to Sister Zifeng. I feel like it's been over a year since I last saw you. Sister Zifeng is more outgoing than before. Sister Zifeng seems to have grown into a big girl. It has indeed grown quite a bit. Isn't Mushroom House 5 people? Why is there an extra resident guest this season? It's Dehua. Dehua has returned. Great, I loved Dehua the most in the 1st and 2nd seasons. Now that he's back, I'm so happy. The 6 of them at Mushroom House are reunited. Is that Teacher Huang? Why do you feel like you're gaining weight again? Peng Peng seems to have become quite handsome. Teacher, he still looks so gentle. The long-awaited Life of Longing 4 has finally arrived. The desired life has reached its 7th season. Nowadays, most of the viewers who come to watch this program are veteran viewers. They will have a feeling of reunion after a long separation. Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Teacher Huang and Teacher He warmly greeted the audience at this moment. This season has been changed to full live streaming, which can be considered a major breakthrough. In some ways, it is possible to have a closer distance with the audience. What's wrong with Peng Peng? I also noticed that Peng Peng seems to be feeling very uncomfortable. Peng Peng, shouldn't there be anything wrong? The audience in the live broadcast room noticed that Peng Peng is now squatting on the ground, looking very painful. Teacher He explained, Peng Peng was a bit uncomfortable with the local environment this morning, and his body was not very comfortable. The audience in the live broadcast immediately expressed their concern for Peng Peng. At this moment, Teacher Huang squatted down and felt Peng Peng's pulse. It looks very stylish. He didn't forget to explain to the audience, this year I visited several traditional Chinese medicine practitioners and read several books on traditional Chinese medicine, so I learned some practical skills, but they weren't quite up to par. Peng Peng, I see that you are not accustomed to the local conditions. Soon, Teacher Huang had already made a judgment. Peng Peng sighed and said, it's really uncomfortable, Teacher Huang. I feel so uncomfortable now that I want to die. Go aside, don't talk nonsense, it's unlucky, teacher, he scolded from the side. Villager Fugue walked over, leaning on a cane. He looked at least 70 or 80 years old, and his face was covered in traces left by the wind and sand. After all, he is also the leader of the Mushroom House group. Taking a glance at Peng Peng's uncomfortable expression, Villager Fugue smiled and said, "My child, there is a 100-year-old Chinese doctor living in this desert village. I will take you to see him later and ask him to give you 2 injections to ensure that the medicine will cure you." What? What? A 100-year-old national doctor. The words of Villager Fugue made Peng Peng's eyes light up. Teacher Huang was surprised and said, "Brother, is it a doctor who is already 100 years old?" "That's right." Villager Fugue smiled and said, "At least I'm over 100 years old. In front of him, I've always been grandchildren. As for you guys, you can't even be considered grandchildren." Teacher, he was also surprised. Can a Chinese doctor over 100 years old still afford medical tools? At this age, it is not easy for ordinary people to have convenient mobility. Villager Fugue continued, "His medical skills are very impressive. He even saved the one-armed general He Bingyan back then." What? Teacher, he was once again surprised. This time, even the audience in the live broadcast room is not calm anymore. He Bingyan, the one-armed general during the anti-Japanese war. Isn't his grandfather bragging? I have heard the story of General He Bingyan. It seems that when he broke his arm back then, he almost died. Fortunately, with the help of a national doctor, is it possible that he is the one mentioned by the old man? I don't feel like it. If there were such a skilled doctor, how could they be in such a remote and impoverished place? Can Grandpa also hear it through hearsay? Teacher, he opened his mouth and wanted to ask some questions about the 100-year-old Chinese medicine. Villager Fugue pointed ahead and said, "That's the mushroom house that your program team has built for you." Following his gaze, Zifeng's younger sister exclaimed in surprise, "Wow! The mushroom houses this season are so beautiful, and they are particularly harmonious with the local architecture. The production team has really put in a lot of effort." Hey! There's another family next to it. Teacher, he couldn't help but feel a bit surprised. It's already the 7th season of Desired Life, and it's the first time neighbors have appeared. There are usually no residents around. Villager Fugue explained with a smile, "This is the home of the century-old Chinese doctor that I just told you about." At this very moment, a beautiful woman with a good figure, delicate appearance, and a bit of exotic charm wandered around the doorstep of the century-old Chinese doctor. Sister Zifeng only glanced at it and immediately recognized it. Sister Reba. This is Sister Reba. How could Sister Reba be here? P.S. 4 flowers, 4 evaluation tickets, 4 tips, 4 monthly tickets, 4 various data support. Old author's new book requires support. Please understand that preliminary data is very important. This book has been conceptualized for a long time, and there are saved manuscripts to ensure that it does not bounce and updates are stable. With a base of 8 updates, there are 500 flowers today, 100 review tickets, and an additional 2 updates or even more. I am preparing to explode liver disease, please torture me. Chapter 0002. Mom, I saw the old god. You are listening at novel full.audio. Sister Reba. Accompanied by Zifeng's loud call. Reba also noticed. She turned her head and looked at Zifeng's sister and her group of 6. Suddenly dumbfounded. But soon she noticed the cameras and staff around her, speculating and asking, "Are you recording The Life of Longing for?" That's right. The 7th season of Desired Life has started recording. Is this season still live streaming? Sister Zifeng's face was filled with excitement when she saw Reba. The two of them have acted together before, so they can be considered quite good girlfriends. Reba waved her hand and greeted the audience in the live broadcast room. At this moment, There were also many viewers who liked Reba in the live broadcast room, and they immediately became excited. It's amazing to see this here, isn't it? Can this be considered our unexpected surprise? I thought Reba was the guest of the first episode, but their reaction seems to be different. Why don't Reba stay as a guest instead? I raise my hands in agreement. I raised both hands and feet to show agreement. Reba, how could you suddenly appear here? Sister Zifeng looked at Reba curiously and asked. Teacher Huang and Teacher He exchanged a glance, both of them quite puzzled. They are not only permanent guests, but also investors behind Desired Life. Whenever a guest appears, they are the first to know. This program has invited Reba before, but unfortunately, Reba doesn't have a schedule. She is a well-known model worker in the entertainment industry, and a certain actress has once said, Reba is too hardworking. Apart from filming, she has no life. Reba opened her mouth, hesitated for a moment, and then honestly said, I'm here to see a doctor. What? Sister Zifeng looked bewildered. Miss Reba, are you sick? Teacher Huang and Teacher He immediately approached to express their concern and condolences. Reba nodded and said, I've been feeling unwell lately and I've been seeing many doctors, but the treatment hasn't been good, and I can't even figure out what my illness is. It's a Chinese doctor recommended to me by my grandfather, and I found it according to the address. So that's what happened. Sister Zifeng suddenly realized. Reba, shouldn't the Chinese doctor recommended by your grandfather be? Teacher He suddenly remembered the 100-year-old national doctor mentioned by villager Fugue just now. Reba pointed to the house behind her and said, there is an address indicating that I live here. I was just about to knock on the door when I ran into you. At this very moment. The courtyard gate of the house next to the mushroom house has been opened. An old man with gray hair and an ancient immortal style slowly walked out. This not only attracted the attention of Teacher Huang, Reba, and a few others. And the audience in the live broadcast room. Wow! This old man has such a delicious taste. It looks like the masters of those schools in fairy tales. This is too fairy-like, isn't it? She still has a head of white long hair, which is definitely not dyed, but pure natural white. Is this a fairy? Mom, I saw the legendary Immortals. Just as everyone was surprised, villager Fugue ran over at the first moment, and he went up to give a young salute. Good morning, old Immortal. On Xiangjiang's side, after walking out, he stretched lazily. Then he looked up at the 70 or 80-year-old man in front of him and said with a smile, Guzi, I don't usually see you coming to my side. Today, in this desert village, the sun is shining in the west. Is that okay? Teacher Huang, who heard these words not far away, frowned and felt a bit strange. A 70 or 80-year-old man, known as Guzi. Villager Fugue was not angry at all and even smiled, saying, Old Immortal, there is a variety show coming here to live stream. I brought them here to explore the way. It's right next door to your residence. A while ago, you went on a fairy tale trip and didn't have time to tell you. Villager Fugue then called Teacher Huang and the others over and introduced them. This is the century-old Chinese doctor I just mentioned to you. Our desert village likes to call him the Old Immortal. Old Immortals, these are the guests on that variety show. Mr. Huang and Mr. He, the two elders, came to Qianyun at the first time and bowed respectfully. I have seen an Old Immortal. They showed great politeness. Leaving aside the claim made by villager Fugue that Qianyun had treated General He Bingyan with one arm, it is true or false. The Chinese doctors who have lived for over 100 years are admirable just because of this. Sister Zifeng, Peng, Zhang Yixing, and other younger generations quickly approached to greet each other. Qianyun nodded with a smile on his face and said, so that's what happened. Then I wish you all the best in watching this variety show. Upon hearing that Qin Yun did not refuse their live broadcast of the variety show here, teacher He breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Yun naturally noticed his slight expression and casually explained, I'm not the only one in this desert village. Besides, we're broadcasting a variety show next door to my house, but it's not there, so I can't control it. Teacher He was suddenly taken aback. I didn't expect Qin Yuncha to find my simple micro-expression so penetrating. He is truly a Chinese doctor who has lived for over 100 years. I really agreed to that sentence. He has experienced more things than he eats salt. P.S. 4 flowers, 4 evaluation tickets, 4 tips, 4 monthly tickets, 4 various data support. Old author's new book requires support. Please understand that preliminary data is very important. This book has been conceptualized for a long time, and there are saved manuscripts to ensure that it does not bounce and updates are stable. With a base of 8 updates, there are 500 flowers today, 100 review tickets, and an additional 2 updates or even more. I am preparing to explode liver disease, please torture me. Chapter 0003. You said Bingyan, we are fellow villagers. You are listening at novel full.audio. This little girl looks a bit familiar. Qin Yun's gaze suddenly fell on Reba and he asked with a smile, is your grandfather named He? Reba nodded obediently. Yes, old Immortal. I came to see you this time, it was recommended by my grandfather. I know, that kid called me. Qin Yun invited with a smile, let's go, come to where I live, and I'll show you your health. You little dolls, come along too. Upon hearing Qin Yun's words, teacher Huang immediately realized. Qin Yun regards Reba as a regular guest on their program team. In fact, encountering Reba here was completely accidental. Teacher Huang did not refuse. He followed behind Qin Yun and Reba, and his heart was also filled with curiosity about the residence of this century-old great doctor. Entering the yard, it's actually quite ordinary. It looks no different from an ordinary yard. Reba curiously asked, Old Fairy, why doesn't there be any medicinal smell in your yard? I've been to some doctors' homes before, and they all have a strong medicinal smell. Qin Yun casually explained, I don't often seek medical treatment. If it weren't for your grandfather having some friendship with me and calling me several times, I might not have been able to see you. That's it. Upon hearing Qin Yun's words, Reba felt a little relieved in an instant. Teacher Huang was lost in thought behind him. Qin Yun is a 100-year-old national doctor. It's amazing that he can still see a doctor at such an old age. If it were for other centenarians, it would be difficult to get down to the ground now. Old Immortal, your medical skills must be particularly superb, right? Reba looked at Qin Yun curiously and said, my grandfather told me that you are the most skilled person in the world in terms of medical skills. If even you can't cure my illness, then no one can cure it well. Qin Yun shook his head and chuckled lightly, that stinky kid can flatter. Do you remember the last time I saw him? He was about your age, and in the blink of an eye, he became a grandpa. What? Upon hearing Qin Yun's words, Reba's face was filled with surprise. Peng Peng asked curiously, Old Immortal, how old are you this year? Qin Yun looked at Peng Peng and said, Little doll, hasn't anyone taught you that it's impolite to ask someone's age directly when facing an elderly person? Peng Peng was stunned and awkwardly scratched his head. Teacher He smiled and made amends, Old Immortal, Peng Peng is still very young and somewhat immature. Don't argue with him like that. Qin Yun chuckled lightly and said, Don't worry, at his age, I don't even think he's young when he's my great-grandson. You two are quite good, probably around 50. Qin Yun looked at Teacher Huang and Teacher He. This statement surprised Sister Zifeng's face. Old Immortal, how did you tell? Qin Yun smiled and said, Little girl, are you saying that Huang Lei in your mouth does look older, but He Jiong looks very young, right? Sister Zifeng was stunned on the spot. This is really an old fairy, who instantly understood her thoughts. How impressive. The audience in the live broadcast room were also shocked by Qin Yun's words. This old immortal is also too magical. He immediately saw through Zifeng's sister's thoughts. I feel like everything Zifeng's sister is thinking cannot escape the eyes of the old immortal. The old immortal has lived for over 100 years and has gone through many experiences. The 4 words understanding people's hearts and wisdom have been fully reflected in him. This old immortal is extraordinary. Qin Yun looked at teacher He and explained, Xiao He does look very young on the outside, but I noticed his neck. To determine a person's age, one should look at their neck, not their face. Upon hearing these words, Sister Zifeng immediately looked at the necks of Teacher Huang and Teacher He. Although Teacher He looks much younger than Teacher Huang, there is basically no difference in their neck condition. I see so. Old immortal, I understand. Sister Zifeng suddenly realized. Teacher He smiled and said, the old immortal is really amazing. Qin Yun stopped and said, it's not really impressive. These are just the simplest medical knowledge. Old immortal, just now I heard that villager Fugue said, do you seem to have treated General He Bingyan? Teacher Huang suddenly remembered this matter and curiously asked, are you talking about Bingyan? He and I are fellow villagers. Qin Yun said with a nostalgic expression, when he wanted to learn martial arts, I recommended him to become a disciple of Taoist Ishu in Wudong. How many years have passed in a blink of an eye, he has already passed away for a long time. Qin Yun spoke these words out loud. Teacher Huang was stunned on the spot. Teacher He murmured softly to himself. The 100-year-old national doctor in front of me is actually from the same hometown as He Bingyan. Also called Bingyan. It seems that the relationship is quite complicated. P.S. 4 flowers, 4 evaluation tickets, 4 tips, 4 monthly tickets, 4 various data support. Old author's new book requires support. Please understand that preliminary data is very important. This book has been conceptualized for a long time, and there are saved manuscripts to ensure that it does not bounce and updates are stable. With a base of 8 updates, there are 500 flowers today, 100 review tickets, and an additional 2 updates or even more. I am preparing to explode liver disease, please torture me. Chapter 0004. One-armed general, retrieve from his hand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sleeping slot. Does this old man really know General He Bingyan? Villager. Are you joking? He shouldn't be talking nonsense, right? If this old immortal were really a 100-year-old national doctor, he would be many years older than General He Bingyan. It is understandable to say that he knows him. That being said, it cannot be ruled out that he may boast, after all, many things in that era were nowhere to be found, and we don't know what he said. Qin Yun's words sparked discussions among the water enthusiasts in the live broadcast room. Some people believe Qin Yun's words. Naturally, some people question it. Nowadays, the internet is like this. Teacher Huang took a deep breath and looked at Qin Yun, asking, Old immortal, do you think General He Bingyan is your fellow villager? Yeah. Qin Yun nodded seriously and said, his father and I are from the same generation. We watched him grow up from a young age. That child has had a masculinity since childhood, yearning to protect his family and country. Don't be fooled by his young age, but he is naturally divine. When he was 13 years old, he reported the stone lion weighing over 200 pounds at my doorstep. Lying trough. Teacher Huang was stunned upon hearing this. A 13-year-old kid, holding a stone lion weighing over 200 pounds. How could this be possible? At this moment, Teacher He spoke up and said, I have read about General He Bingyan before, and it seems that many people have said that General He Bingyan has great power. Qin Yun explained, his strength is due to postnatal reasons, but the most important thing is his innate divine power. Just like many weightlifters nowadays, without any talent, no matter how hard they try, it's all in vain. Teacher, he nodded in agreement. So, the old immortal, later you recommended him to become a disciple of Wudang Yishu Taoist. Teacher Huang asked curiously. He suddenly remembered seeing relevant records in earlier years. General He Bingyan is a disciple of Taoist Yishu. In fact, this kind of thing can be found online now. That's right. Qin Yin explained, I had a good relationship with Taoist Yishu from Wudang at that time, so I recommended him to go there. When he came down from Wudang Mountain, he was only around 15 years old. At that time, the troops didn't want to take him in even though he didn't have a high horse. As a result, this kid just hugged the big tree next to him and refused to leave. Upon hearing this, Teacher Huang couldn't help but burst out laughing. Teacher, he sighed and said, General He Bingyan is really cute. I guess all he had in mind at that time was to protect his family and country. This is a big character, isn't it? Qin Yin nodded and said, he is such a stubborn guy. If it weren't for that, he wouldn't have sacrificed one of his arms. Old Immortal, what exactly happened back then? Teacher Huang asked curiously. Qin Yin explained, Bingyan wants to protect his family and country. Whatever happens, he leads his soldiers forward. At that time, we encountered stubborn enemy resistance in Dongkou County and had reached a state of intense resistance. His superiors knew he was a powerful warrior and didn't want him to be harmed, so they didn't let him go. As a result, he stubbornly not only went forward, but also led the soldiers to fight fiercely. Finally, with their efforts, the enemy quickly collapsed and withdrew from their positions. However, Bingyan also suffered a heavy blow to his right arm during this battle. I was working in Dongkou County at the time and rushed there as soon as I heard about it. The scene at that time was truly shocking. Bingyan, this kid has only one layer of skin left on his entire arm, and everything else is broken. Who? Teacher, he took a deep breath from listening, unable to imagine what kind of injury it was. Sister Zifeng and Reba, the two girls, both listened and their right arms started to move. I'm afraid this arm is completely broken, Peng Peng murmured to himself. Qin Yin nodded and said, at that time, I checked and found out that Bingyan's right arm was injured by a bomb from Dam. The bones inside his entire right arm have been shattered, and there is no way to save them. And at that time, it caused massive arterial bleeding, and stopping the bleeding was a difficult point first. Upon hearing this, both Teacher Huang and Teacher He couldn't help but hold their breath. Although I haven't personally experienced it. But upon hearing Qin Yun's words, they all felt the crisis situation they had in the past. General He Bingyan, this is a real crisis on the brink of death. A slight mistake can lead to a loss of life. Qin Yun continued, at that time, I made a decisive decision and sawed off his right arm. In that situation, protecting his life was the most important thing. The surgery took 10 hours to finally complete. Teacher He looked at Qin Yun gratefully and said, Old Immortal, fortunately you were there at the time, saving General He Bingyan's life. Otherwise, our country would have lost such a hero. I remember in the later battles, General He Bingyan had very outstanding performances. Qin Yun shook his head and chuckled casually. I am a doctor, it is my duty to treat and save people. It's like a sentence that Bingyan once said to me, he's a soldier, his duty is to fight and defend his country. Upon hearing this, the teachers Huang, He, and Zifeng couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. It seems like in that era, whether it was doctors or soldiers. I have a sense of awe and responsibility towards my profession. P.S. 4 flowers, 4 evaluation tickets, 4 tips, 4 monthly tickets, for various data support. Old author's new book requires support. Please understand that preliminary data is very important. This book has been conceptualized for a long time, and there are saved manuscripts to ensure that it does not bounce and updates are stable. With a base of 8 updates, there are 500 flowers today, 100 review tickets, and an additional 2 updates or even more. I am preparing to explode liver disease, please torture me. Chapter 0005. Green Flower Pots and Chrysanthemums. Xiangjiang Xiao. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Old Immortal, you are truly remarkable. Sister Zifeng sincerely praised her. Qin Yun shook his head and said, Our era has passed, and the next belongs to you young people. Really? Sister Zifeng was a bit skeptical and said, Nowadays, many people say that we, born in the 2000s, are the defeated generation. Zifeng's younger sister was born in 2001, naturally belonging to the post.00s generation. At this moment, Qin Yun raised his hand and pointed to the swallow in the sky. Zifeng, little girl, look. Sister Zifeng decisively lifted her head and looked at Qin Yun's finger position. Teacher Huang and Teacher He also followed suit. Qin Yundao said, Why do the swallows in the sky fly south now? Sister Zifeng shook her head and said, I don't know, does the old immortal have any great ideas? Qin Yun touched his beard and said seriously, We are humans, why do we care about birds? Zifeng's younger sister is also quite intelligent. Upon hearing Qin Yun's words, she suddenly realized. Old Immortal, I understand what you mean. Just understand. Qin Yun explained with a light smile, I remember back then, the post.90s generation was also said to be the defeated generation. Now, the post.90s generation has also grown up, and the post.80s generation back then can now be considered the economic pillar. So, don't worry about what the idle people on the internet say. I'm still looking forward to the future of you young people. Be brave and fly. Sister Zifeng nodded approvingly, instantly feeling a lot of relief in her mood. At this moment, the audience in the live broadcast room was also infected by Qin Yun's words. The old immortal's words are really accurate. He has lived for over 100 years, and he has experienced so many things. Of course, the words he says are also unique. This old immortal is a bit interesting. I have been fans of the old immortal. Appreciate the old immortal. I am also born in the 2000s, and now many people say we are the broken generation. I used to think that I really couldn't do it, but the old immortal's words made me feel enlightened. No matter what others say, live your own future well. If the post.2000s live in the best era, they should also take advantage of the convenience of the times to achieve better growth. Although it was just a brief encounter. This group of people from Mushroom House, as well as the audience in the live broadcast room, have shown some respect to Qin Yun. Qin Yun greeted them into the room and said with a warm smile, Xiao Huang, Xiao He, you little dolls are sitting here for now. I'll check the health of the little girl Reba. Okay, thank you, old immortal. Don't be polite, for the sake of your grandfather's face, I'll treat your illness today. Actually, when I first saw you in this situation, I already had a judgment that you were overworked. Overworking. I was stunned when I heated up. Looking back on this period of time, it seems that I have been filming all along and have rarely rested. This picture is so beautiful. Just as Reba was about to ask something, Dahua beside her let out a cry of surprise. Everyone followed the gaze of Dahua's fingers. Directly inside the room, a painting was placed, featuring a blue and white pot and chrysanthemums, with a slightly peculiar shape that added a lot of beauty. Is this the blue flower pot and chrysanthemum? Teacher Huang is quite knowledgeable, he can recognize it at a glance. This is the work of Master Xiangjiang, he is a famous painter in modern times. Upon hearing Teacher Huang's words, Sister Zifeng and Peng Peng, who were nearby, had already taken out their phones and started searching for relevant information. Whether it's the blue flower pot and the chrysanthemum or Xiangjiang, these two younger generations have never heard of it. On the contrary, some viewers in the live broadcast room were instantly shocked. It is indeed the frequently desired, blue flower pot and chrysanthemum, no wonder I looked so familiar just now. Teacher Huang is quite impressive, he recognized it all at once. I just searched on my phone and found that Xiao Liu is one of the most famous painters in modern times. Is this the real, blue flower pot and chrysanthemum? Isn't it a fake painting? I remember the blue flower pot and chrysanthemum, as if it had appeared at an auction before, and the auctioneer was a wealthy businessman from Xiangjiang. Qin Yun also looked at the oil painting, blue flower pot and chrysanthemum, in the room and smiled at teacher Huang, saying, "Xiao Huang, you little doll have really good eyesight. You can tell it at a glance." Teacher Huang exclaimed incredulously, "Old Immortal, is this what you have collected?" "I remember this painting, it seems like." Teacher Huang hesitated to speak. Qin Yun saw through his meaning and explained with a light smile, "This painting is from Xiaoliu in Xiangjiang, who gave it to me. P.S. 4 flowers, 4 evaluation tickets, 4 tips, 4 monthly tickets, 4 various data support. Old author's new book requires support. Please understand that preliminary data is very important. This book has been conceptualized for a long time, and there are saved manuscripts to ensure that it does not bounce and updates are stable. With a base of 8 updates, there are 500 flowers today, 100 review tickets, and an additional 2 updates or even more. I am preparing to explode liver disease, please torture me." Chapter 0006. I changed Xiao Liu's kidneys 3 times, seeking. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xiao Liu from Xiangjiang. Who is it? Teacher He, Peng, and the others all showed a curious expression. At this moment, Teacher Huang guessed, "Old Immortal, isn't the little Liu from Xiangjiang you mentioned Liu Wanxiong?" Qin Yun nodded and said, "It's him." It seems that Xiao Huang knows him. Teacher Huang took a deep breath and it was indeed Liu Wanxiong. He really guessed it right. Mr. Huang explained, "I haven't met Mr. Liu Wanxiong before, but I have a friend who told me at that time that Liu Wanxiong's home has a collection of the painting, blue flower pot and chrysanthemum. At this moment, it's hard work. The audience in the live broadcast room have started searching for Liu Wanxiong one after another. Actually, many people already know this name. A top wealthy businessman in Xiangjiang. His family manufactures ceiling fans, so Liu Wanxiong is also known as Fan Liu. In that era, Liu Wanxiong had a keen eye and was extremely charming, galloping in the Xiangjiang stock market as a sniper. Since its rapid rise in 1985, it has now developed into a comprehensive conglomerate with 4 listed companies. After following the top 10 conglomerates of Xiangjiang in terms of total market value, he became a candidate chaebol of Xiangjiang. In 2023, Liu Wanxiong became the 8th richest person in Forbes' Longwa Xiangjiang with a wealth of 13.2 billion meters. This painting was actually gifted by Liu Wanxiong. It seems that his relationship with this old immortal is not simple. The old immortal probably hasn't treated Mr. Liu Wanxiong before. I don't rule out this possibility. Liu Wanxiong's body seems to have been quite poor. I remember there was news recently that he was about to die. Seeing through Huang's doubts, Qin Yun casually explained, "This painting was collected by Xiao Liu in the early years. Later, I changed his kidney and saved his life. He gave me this painting as a medical gift." Teacher Huang looked at the painting, blue flower pot and chrysanthemum, in front of him, which was worth over 100 million yuan. Surprisingly, it was a medical fee given to Qin Yun. This medical fee is a bit too expensive. But on second thought, if Qin Yun had really saved Liu Wanxiong's life, this painting of over 100 million yuan would be completely worth it as a diagnosis. "Old Immortal, have you changed Mr. Liu Wanxiong's kidney before?" Teacher He looked at Qin Yun and was very surprised. Qin Yun nodded and said, "More than once. Xiao Liu, this stinky kid, has a bit of a business mind, and his lecherous behavior is also true. When he was young, he always liked to criticize those female celebrities and ruined his own kidneys. To be honest, I changed his kidney 3 times. The last time his body was hollowed out, even if he regained his life, he could only sit in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Teacher, he immediately fell into contemplation. He naturally has some understanding of Lu Wanxiong's affairs. When I was young, I really enjoyed playing with those female celebrities. For example, the beautiful woman Guan Jilin. The famous golf event was spread by her and Lu Wanxiong. In addition, there is also Empress Cai Xiaofen. Many beautiful celebrities in Xiangjiang have basically fallen into his hands. De Lu's lecherous behavior is well known throughout the entire Xiangjiang River. At this moment, the audience in the live broadcast room is also discussing this matter. It seems that Lu Wanxiong's kidney is not very good. There have been rumors about him changing his kidney before, but it seems to have not been confirmed. What's worth confirming about this matter? Lu Wanxiong looked like he had overused his kidneys. I only have one girlfriend, and now I feel like my kidneys are not enough. When Lu Wanxiong was young, he had at least a dozen girlfriends. Can his kidneys still recover? It makes sense, it makes sense. Lu Wanxiong is now in a wheelchair. Impossible. It's already difficult for ordinary people to bear it after changing their kidneys once. Lu Wanxiong has changed his kidneys 3 times, and he can still survive. How could that be? This old guy probably doesn't understand any relevant information and deliberately talks nonsense here, right? Although he lived for over 100 years, it doesn't mean that Lu Wanxiong will come to him for a kidney transplant. What do I think of his appearance as nonsense? Many viewers in the live broadcast room have questioned Qin Yun. Teacher, he glanced at these bullet comments and frowned. Although what Qin Yun said is quite uncertain. But a century-old Chinese doctor should not be talking nonsense. Teacher, he deliberately asked, Old Immortal, did you change all 3 kidneys? Qin Yun nodded and said, Xiaoliu Xin is just someone else. Every time he changes kidneys, he comes to me. The last time he had a kidney transplant, he was accompanied by Bai. You should know this woman, right? Teacher Huang nodded and said, it seems like Lu Wanxiong's wife now. It is said that the relationship between the two is particularly good, young and beautiful. Qin Yun snorted lightly and said, the woman Bai is not a good thing at all. Xiaoliu has been smart for a lifetime, but when he gets old, he is being held by this woman. Now this woman is eager for Xiaoliu to die. If Xiaoliu doesn't have it, his wealth will be at least half of his score. After replacing Xiaoliu's kidney, I saved his life. You didn't notice the expression on Bai's woman's face, as if she had some deep hatred towards me. Upon hearing this, both Teacher Huang and Teacher He were startled. The old immortal in front of me is too daring to speak. P.S. 4 flowers, 4 evaluation tickets, 4 tips, 4 monthly tickets, for various data support. Old author's new book requires support. Please understand that preliminary data is very important. This book has been conceptualized for a long time, and there are saved manuscripts to ensure that it does not bounce and updates are stable. With a base of 8 updates, there are 500 flowers today, 100 review tickets, and an additional 2 updates or even more. I am preparing to explode liver disease, please torture me. Chapter 0007. 2 Paper Cups Auscultation, the Transformation of Traditional Chinese Medicine. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Who is Bai? In the live broadcast room of Desired Life, many viewers have raised questions. Quickly, someone will conduct science popularization. Bai was a journalist in Xiangjiang in the early years, but later, by some means, he approached Lu Wanxiong and gave birth to a daughter for him. Sleeping Slot. A journalist becoming the wife of a wealthy person is just too clever. This woman is so amazing. Upon hearing the old immortal's words, Bai is not a simple woman. The reporter in Xiangjiang is just a paparazzi. It's hard to imagine how capable a paparazzi can be of achieving his current status. Qin Yun shook his head and chuckled lightly, saying, let's not talk about these things anymore. Although I don't really like gone by, it's still Xiao Liu's personal matter and I can't control it. Sister Zifeng asked curiously, Old Immortal, is that what you usually call Mr. Lu Wanxiong? What else would you call it? Qin Yun said disapprovingly, Xiao Liu's grandfather can only be considered a junior in front of me. Sister Zifeng was instantly speechless. Qin Yun is a 100-year-old national doctor, while Lu Wanxiong was born in his 50s. If we really count it this way, Lu Wanxiong's grandfather indeed belongs to Qin Yun's younger generation. Reba, little girl, reach out your hand. Qin Yun called Reba over, and Reba looked obedient. Qin Yun placed his hand on Reba's wrist. Teacher Huang saw this scene next to him and explained with a smile, this is the pulse detection of traditional Chinese medicine, and it is the skill of every traditional Chinese medicine expert. Does Xiao Huang also understand traditional Chinese medicine? Qin Yun looked at Teacher Huang. Teacher Huang nodded with a smile. Teacher He next to him said, Teacher Huang has been reading books related to traditional Chinese medicine recently, and now he also knows some pulse signals. Qin Yun smiled and shook his head. Xiao Huang, just look at the knowledge in books, it still needs to be experienced firsthand. You have a bunch of illnesses on yourself, how can you check others' bodies? What? Teacher Huang was stunned on the spot and looked at Qin Yun in confusion. Qin Yun smiled slightly and asked him, have you been having poor sleep lately? I have nightmares almost every day and even sweat profusely when I wake up. What? Teacher Huang was stunned again and quickly nodded, saying, the old immortal is right. I have been suffering from the symptoms you mentioned for a long time, and I have also read many books on traditional Chinese medicine. I am currently trying to find a way to treat them, but there is currently no effect. I estimate that I will have to wait for some time, as traditional Chinese medicine is relatively slow. No way. Qin Yun interrupted him and said seriously, non-professionals think that traditional Chinese medicine is slower, but in fact, there are times when traditional Chinese medicine is also faster. Traditional Chinese medicine encompasses everything, it's not as simple as you think. I can't understand your illness by reading a few medical books. Teacher Huang was itching to hear this and wanted Qin Yun to help with medical treatment. Qin Yun saw through his meaning and smiled, saying, meeting is fate. After I finish treating Reba, I can also show you. A few children, could you please bring me 2 paper cups? No problem. Zhang Yixing picked up 2 paper cups and placed them in Qin Yun's hand. Qin Yun aimed one of the paper cups at Reba's chest, and placed the other paper cup on his ear. This sudden move surprised Teacher He and the others nearby. Only Teacher Huang understood and said, this is auscultation. Old Immortal, don't you use any instruments? Sister Zifeng asked curiously. Qin Yun glanced at Zifeng's younger sister and shook his head, chuckling lightly. When I was in my teens, I was treating people. What instruments were there at that time? The method I used is considered a traditional Chinese medicine method. But the effect is still quite good. The quality of this paper cup is also much better than the paper cup I used back then. As soon as the words fell, Qin Yun had a judgment and picked up a paper and pen, starting to write about the pharmacy. As she wrote, she said, Reba, little girl, take this prescription and it will cure you within 3 days. However, it's a reminder to you that your illness is just overwork. You should still enjoy life appropriately at a young age and expend your energy too early. Your old age can be very sad. Remember, in a person's lifetime, there is a number of things to eat and do. Qin Yun touched his beard and gave a mysterious smile. Otherwise, you would be more likely to be like Xiao Li's doll. In the early years, when you made movies, you would have to fight 80 at a time, but in your later years, you would even have to be supported while walking. P.S. 4 flowers, 4 evaluation tickets, 4 tips, 4 monthly tickets, 4 various data support. Old author's new book requires support. Please understand that preliminary data is very important. This book has been conceptualized for a long time, and there are saved manuscripts to ensure that it does not bounce and updates are stable. With a base of 8 updates, there are 500 flowers today, 100 review tickets, and an additional 2 updates, or even more. I am preparing to explode liver disease, please torture me. Chapter 0008. Medical jargon was created by an old immortal. You are listening at novel full.audio. Old immortal, why can you understand the words on it? Sister Zifeng suddenly let out a cry of surprise. Qin Yun looked at Zifeng's sister and smiled. Zifeng's little girl, isn't this just something that people can understand? Sister Zifeng explained, I don't mean that, but rather that I have seen a doctor before and many of the prescriptions prescribed by doctors that I can't understand. Upon hearing Sister Zifeng's words, Peng, Zhang Yixing and the others next to her nodded in agreement. This year. The words written by the doctor are difficult for patients to understand. Be as careless as possible. Qin Yun explained with a smile, that's because the words written by doctors are all simplified medical terms, and only those who have studied can understand them. When I invented this handwriting, I didn't want some prescriptions to spread. In that era, many foreign doctors wanted to learn it secretly. What? What? Qin Yun's words stunned Zifeng's younger sister instantly. Old immortal, do you mean that you invented this medical abbreviation? Yes. Qin Yun nodded with a light smile. Looking at Reba, she said, Reba, this little girl can't understand, so I didn't use it and wrote it in normal language. At this moment, Peng, Zhang Yixing, and Dahua have already taken out their phones and started searching for information about Jianyu on the internet. Similarly, there are also viewers in the live broadcast room who follow suit. The old immortal is right. The reason why the words written by the doctor are difficult for people to understand is in medical jargon. Originally, this kind of thing was invented by an old immortal. Good guy, we saw the inventor here today. The old immortal is too powerful, isn't he? He was able to invent this kind of thing. Amazing. My long-standing doubts have finally been resolved. Who said it's not? I used to hate seeing doctors' prescriptions when I went to the hospital, but now I finally understand why they wrote it that way. After listening to the old immortal's explanation, I completely realized it this time. At this moment, Qin Yun had already reached the shelf not far away and then took out a thick book. Reba glanced at her with a curious expression on her face. Qin Yun explained, this book is the medical abbreviation I wrote back then, which can be considered the oldest version and contains the most complete records. If you are interested, you can take a look. Teacher, he took it with both hands and curiously asked, Old immortal, aren't you afraid of leaking it? Qin Yun shook his head and said, times are different now. Teacher, he smiled knowingly, and upon opening it, it was recorded very comprehensively. Teacher Huang couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, Old immortal, when did you write this book? Probably before the anti-Japanese war, I can't remember the exact time either. Before the war of resistance against Japan. Teacher Huang exclaimed in disbelief, you were able to write such a book in that era. It's amazing, old immortal. You're just amazing. Qin Yun chuckled lightly. At that time, in order to prevent medical leaks in China, I did my best to write such a book. Later, after being circulated, several versions have been modified. However, the times have changed now, so this simplification of medicine has also undergone significant changes. Teacher Huang and Teacher He nodded in agreement, and now they have a deep respect for Qin Yun. In that era, such books were quite important, and Qin Yun was able to write them, which had a great impact on the medical community of the entire Dragon Kingdom. Qin Yun's approach is highly respected. It's trending. At this very moment. Sister Zifeng suddenly spoke up and said, our program Desired Life has made several hot searches. There are several that are still related to the old immortal. You guys, take a look. Sister Zifeng showed everyone her phone. And at this moment. Many of the viewers in the live broadcast room also noticed the situation on Weibo. Lu Wanxiong changed his kidneys 3 times. A Life of Longing 4 surprisingly reveals a 100-year-old Chinese medical immortal. The hype of A Life of Longing 4. Ranked first, second, and third respectively on the Weibo hot search list. Besides that, there are still 7 or 8 hot searches. They are all on the Weibo hot search list. In this season of The Life of Longing 4, with the emergence of Qin Yun, the popularity has directly risen to an unimaginable level. P.S. 4 flowers, 4 evaluation tickets, 4 tips, 4 monthly tickets, 4 various data support. Old author's new book requires support. Please understand that preliminary data is very important. This book has been conceptualized for a long time, and there are saved manuscripts to ensure that it does not bounce and updates are stable. With a base of 8 updates, there are 500 flowers today, 100 review tickets, and an additional 2 updates or even more. I am preparing to explode liver disease, please torture me. Chapter 0009. The Old Immortal's Amazing Words, Zhang Yixing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lu Wanxiong has changed his kidneys 3 times. Are you kidding me? It seems that Lu Wanxiong's body has not been very good. There have been rumors of kidney replacement before, isn't it true? I believe Lu Wanxiong has changed his kidney once, and 2 times is still acceptable. 3 times is too scary. Do you know what it represents? The old guy who appears in A Life of Longing 4 may seem quite old, but he may not necessarily be a skilled doctor. There are so many doctors abroad now, and many of them are top-notch medical skills. Do you need to find him? Good guy, you guys really worship foreign things. A 100-year-old national doctor cannot be humiliated, that is the foundation of our dragon country. Nowadays, many people's worship of foreign things is too serious. Foreign doctors are like incense, but domestic doctors are not good, right? Do you also look down too much on traditional Chinese medicine in our country? With the hot search on the internet, discussions about this matter continue. Qin Yun's statement has caused many people to question it. Some people are even discussing whether The Life of Longing 4 is being manipulated and hyped up in conjunction with Qin Yun. The room where the staff are located. Producer Zhang Hengxi frowned tightly when he saw the discussion on the internet. Director Wang Zhenyu beside him angrily said, "Why are there so many people who worship foreign things now? Foreign doctors are like cows, but if we have a few talented doctors in China, that's not enough. How can there be such a truth in the world?" Zhang Hengxi patted Wang Zhenyu's shoulder and comforted, "There are so many people like this, we don't need to argue like them. But the problem is, many people now question our program team's hype or whether we should cooperate with this old immortal's hype." Wang Zhenyu's whole body panicked. The first and second seasons of Desired Life are definitely at their peak. The following seasons were not as good as each other. The audience has gradually lost their expectations for The Desired Life. So this season they adopted a full live streaming model, hoping to bring The Life of Longing 4 back to its peak. There are suddenly so many criticisms on the internet, even questioning their program team's hype. This is not a good thing for their production team. With the emergence of Qin Yun, the popularity has risen, but criticism and questioning have also followed. Teacher He sighed. I also saw the criticism and questioning on the internet and furrowed my brows. He still has feelings for the program, Desired Life, and naturally does not want to see it questioned. Old Immortal, many people on the internet are questioning what you said now. Sister Zifeng spoke decisively, but I don't think you would lie. Although Zifeng's younger sister has just met Qin Yun, she can feel that Qin Yun is not the kind of person who talks casually. Qin Yun rubbed Zifeng's sister's small brain bag melon. This little girl is quite cute. It's normal for some people not to believe that they have changed their kidneys 3 times. Kidney is basically at its limit when it's replaced the second time, but not many people can handle it the third time. After I rescued Xiao Liu, he showed an incredible expression. Xiao Liu has played too much with women, causing serious kidney damage. Young man, you also need to be careful in the future. Finally, Qin Yun said this while looking at Zhang Yixing. Everyone's gaze also fell on Zhang Yixing. Zhang Yixing's face changed instantly and he quickly spoke up, "Old Immortal, what do you mean by that? How can I not understand?" Qin Yun shook his head and said, "You kid is very dishonest. Although a woman is good, don't be too greedy, otherwise she will leak her vitality and have kidney problems. You will be the next little Liu." Xiao Liu spent several billion yuan to treat his illness. Judging from your young age, you probably don't have that much money, do you? Zhang Yixing was speechless on the spot, and his face turned red. Looking at this, there is a feeling of being exposed in one's heart. Teacher, he coughed and quickly explained for Zhang Yixing, "Old Immortal, did you misunderstand? Yixing hasn't gotten married yet, and doesn't even have a girlfriend." Qin Yun glanced at Teacher He and said seriously, "Xiao He, is there any necessary connection between having a girlfriend and having sex with women?" Teacher He. Not far away, Zhang Yixing said, Everyone present was choked by Qin Yun's words. In the live broadcast room, the audience was plunged into a frenzy. Sleeping slot. This old immortal, there's really nothing wrong with what he said. Is there any inevitable connection between having a girlfriend and not having a woman? The saying old immortal is really amazing. This is truth. According to the old immortal, Zhang Yixing usually has a lot of women. Impossible, my family's Yixing is a well-behaved baby, pure and innocent. How could he be the kind of man who casually flirts with women? I don't believe it, the old man is just talking nonsense. The old man is tarnishing our Yixing's reputation. Zhang Yixing's fans exploded in an instant. Some discerning passers-by also analyzed and said, there is no need for old immortal and Zhang Yixing to talk nonsense. Look at Zhang Yixing's expression. When the old immortal spoke these words, Zhang Yixing's expression became unnatural, with a dazed gaze and a cold sweat on his forehead. This is a typical manifestation of nervousness. The analysis makes sense, and I also feel that Zhang Yixing is feeling guilty. The old immortal's words are probably true, otherwise how could Zhang Yixing behave like this? He. Many fans already know how to maintain their idol image. Nowadays, with low traffic and women everywhere, internet celebrities are rushing forward one after another, and there are a few who can defend themselves. That's right, I remember Zhang Yixing seems to have a good relationship with Li Xiaoqiao. P.S. A new day, please support us. Chapter 0010. The little house often comes to me for treatment. You are listening at novel full.audio. Zhang Yixing's face turned red with embarrassment now, and he didn't know how to explain it. If it weren't for the wrong occasion, he would have gone crazy. Qin Yun shook his head and said with a regretful expression, it's not the young people of today. Those young people of the past don't know how to control themselves. If you encounter a woman, you'll end up drilling into it. That small house damaged his body back then. I gave him a few injections, which helped him recover. What? Upon hearing this, Sister Zifeng and the others had already shown doubts on their faces. A small house. Who is it? Can it be a person surnamed Fang? Sister Zifeng murmured a few words in a low voice. The surname Fang is still rare at present. But as long as there are people surnamed Fang, they are basically famous figures, such as the ancient Fang Xianling, many people know him. Qin Yun explained with a smile, the small house is a frequent visitor to my place. This guy is not at all worry-free, and he has some health problems every 3 to 5 days. He is from Xiangjiang, and every time he comes to my place, it takes a lot of time. But he only trusts my medical skills. Teacher Huang and Teacher He exchanged a glance and began to guess who it was. Soon, a name came to teacher Huang's mind. There is a martial arts superstar named Cheng Long in Xiangjiang, and it is said that his real name is Fang. However, regarding this matter, it is currently just speculation and he has not given any response. Old Immortal, aren't you referring to brother Cheng Long? The two characters Cheng Long can be said to be well known to everyone, and they are international level martial arts superstars. Not to mention the Zifeng sister and a few others present, the audience in the live broadcast room is also very clear. Upon hearing teacher Huang's speculation, the audience was all taken aback. Brother Cheng Long. Isn't it? This 100-year-old Chinese medicine immortal has given me a more and more magical feeling. I used to say I knew Lu Wanxiu, but now I have another big brother, Cheng Long, who is a top wealthy businessman in Xiangjiang and an international superstar. It must not be Cheng Long, I bet. I think there is still a possibility in this regard. I have also seen relevant news before. Cheng Long's real name is not Cheng Long, but his surname is Fang. He belongs to Fang Xianling. Qin Yun gave teacher Huang a refreshing look and nodded lightly. Xiao Huang, you're quite smart. The little house is the Cheng Long you mentioned, and his real name is Fang Shilong. I knew him before he even became famous, and at that time I treated him and asked for his real name. Moreover, his ancestral home is not from Xiangjiang. Both he and his father are from Anhui, and there is also a royal ancestral temple there. Accompanied by Qin Yun's narration, Sister Zifeng and others were greatly surprised. Although teacher Huang has already guessed. But there is still some shock in my heart. Is brother Cheng Long's real name Fang? His name is Fang Shilong. Zhang Yixing widened his eyes. He had previously filmed with Cheng Long, and since he didn't even know about it, he always thought Cheng Long was his real name. Old Immortal, were these really what brother Cheng Long personally told you? Peng Peng instinctively asked. Qin Yun nodded with a smile and said, of course, can it still make me play nonsense? You're really interesting, little doll. Compared to the nickname, Cheng Long, I prefer to call him Little House. He's a nice person and every time he comes to me, he brings a bunch of gifts to show his respect. He's a good person, everything else is good, but he's too lascivious. Especially when I was young, I had connections with many female celebrities, which made me feel unclean. However, compared to Xiao Liu, he still listens to advice. After I said it to him a few times, he restrained a bit. Qin Yun spoke calmly, with a calm expression that didn't seem like he was lying. Teacher Huang and teacher He have been so shocked that it is difficult to replicate. Old Immortal, if that's the case, are you the official doctor of brother Cheng Long? Zhang Yixing asked incredulously. Qin Yun glanced at him and shook his head seriously, saying, what is used for official purposes but not for official purposes? Make the small house look like an emperor. If he's sick, then come to me for treatment. Let me go to Xiangjiang to find him. That's absolutely impossible, I don't have this leisure time. As soon as Zhang Yixing said this, his expression changed and he was stunned on the spot. The old immortal in front of me is too domineering. P.S. 4 flowers, 4 evaluation tickets, 4 tips, 4 monthly tickets, 4 various data support. Old author's new book requires support. Please understand that preliminary data is very important. This book has been conceptualized for a long time, and there are saved manuscripts to ensure that it does not bounce and updates are stable. With a base of 8 updates, there are 500 flowers today, 100 review tickets, and an additional 2 updates or even more. I am preparing to explode liver disease, please torture me.